Silence was never weakness. It was control. The quiet wasn't emptiness. It was focus. The world screams, argues, and demands to be seen, but the ones who truly rise, they don't shout. They don't chase validation. They build brick by brick in silence. I learned early that noise doesn't make you great. Consistency does. While others talked about dreams, I was already sweating for mine. Every time I laced up, there was no crowd, no camera, just that sound of rubber against hardwood, the echo of the ball, my breath, my pulse. That was enough. Because greatness isn't born in spotlight moments. It's created in the dark, when nobody's watching. When it's 4 a.m., when your body aches, when your mind says sleep, but your heart whispers, one more rep. That's where legends are built, in silence. You see, talkers need to convince people they're good. Workers just prove it. I didn't need to say I wanted to be the best. I showed it in every practice, every drill, every ounce of discipline. The gym was my sanctuary. The court was my language, and my work, that was my voice. Every move I made was a statement that didn't need to be spoken. Because when you master silence, your actions become symphonies. There's power in not responding. When critics doubted me, when fans booed, when media twisted narratives, I didn't fight with words. I fought with performance. That's the difference between chasing respect and earning it. Respect earned through noise fades. Respect earned through relentless effort echoes. Sound of discipline, the rhythm of repetition, that was my music. That's what drove me. Every shot I missed, every failure I faced, they all spoke to me louder than anyone ever could. Pain doesn't need to talk. It teaches. When I missed the game winner, I didn't make excuses. I replayed it 1,000 times. I studied every movement, every angle, every microsecond of failure until it became fuel. That's what silence does. It amplifies the truth. It forces you to face yourself without distraction. People always say, I'll prove them wrong. That's noise. You don't need to prove anyone wrong if you're focused on proving yourself right. I wasn't chasing opinions, I was chasing mastery. Because once you master your craft, once your actions echo through time, those same people who doubted you end up quoting you. That's the irony of silence. It always finds a voice in the echoes of your results. When I walked into the gym before sunrise, it wasn't about motivation. Motivation fades. It was about obsession, a quiet obsession that eats you alive in the best way possible. The kind that doesn't let you rest. You wake up thinking about improvement. You sleep thinking about what you can still fix. The world calls it insanity. I call it purpose. Silence isn't passive, it's aggressive discipline. It's the restraint to not talk when you could, to not brag when you've earned it, to not complain when it hurts. Because the moment you start talking about your grind, it loses purity. The grind is sacred. It's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to test you. Silence keeps you connected to the pain, and pain, that's the real teacher. You can't hide from yourself in silence. Why? Most people fear it. They need noise, opinions, distractions, validation, anything to drown out their own doubt. But when it's just you, your thoughts, and your dream, that's when truth hits hardest. That's when you realize whether you're built for it or not. I never wanted comfort. I wanted clarity. I wanted to know what I was made of. Silence gave me that. Stripped everything down. No cheering crowd, no applause, no spotlight. Just raw competition against my own limits. That's the essence of greatness. The willingness to face yourself every single day, to demand more even when you've already done enough. People think greatness is loud. They think it's flashy. Records, trophies, headlines. But real greatness, it's subtle. It's the hours nobody claps for. It's the moments you break down and still get up. It's every invisible sacrifice that stacks up quietly until one day the world finally notices what you've been building in the dark. The silence taught me patience. You can't rush mastery. You can't skip the pain. You can't talk your way into greatness. You have to bleed your way there. Every missed shot, every injury, every doubt, it all builds armor. And that armor is forged in silence because noise distracts, but silence sharpens. There's something almost spiritual about it. Those early mornings when the city is still asleep and you're already working, nobody sees you, nobody knows, and that's exactly the point. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for the version of yourself that refuses to quit. That quiet fire burning inside, that's the real voice of purpose. When I was younger, I used to think talking about goals made them real, but I learned fast. Talk is temporary. Action is permanent. Talking burns energy that belongs to execution. So I stopped talking. I stopped explaining. I started showing. Because once you commit to silence, your work becomes undeniable. It doesn't need explanation. It speaks for itself. And the truth is, the world doesn't owe you applause. It owes you nothing. That's why you can't depend on external noise to fuel you. You've got to create your own rhythm, your own standard. Every time I failed, I reminded myself, good, more to learn, more to conquer. That's the mindset that turns silence into strength. The greatest sound in the world isn't a crowd cheering your name. It's the echo of your own footsteps chasing something bigger than yourself. It's the sound of your heartbeat after a brutal workout. It's the whisper of your conscience when you know you gave everything you had. That's what I live for. Not the noise, not the fame, but the process. People will never understand your silence, and that's fine. They're not supposed to. Because silence isn't emptiness, it's depth. It's where growth happens. It's where pain becomes power. When your time comes, when the light hits you, the world won't see how long you stayed quiet. They'll only hear the echo of what you did. So I stayed quiet. I let my work speak. I let my sweat write my story. Because at the end of it all, I don't need to be remembered for what I said. I want to be remembered for what I did. That's the real sound of greatness. No noise, no hype, just action echoing forever. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not what the cameras capture, not what the headlines write about. It's the part nobody claps for. The lonely repetitions, the missed parties, the countless moments you spend chasing perfection that no one will ever witness. But that's the part that defines you. That's the part that separates the ordinary from the obsessed. People talk about success like it's a destination. Like one day you just arrive there and everything clicks, but that's not how it works. Success is built in invisible hours. It's a lifestyle, not a moment. It's every small decision stacked over years. To train when you don't feel like it, to stay after everyone leaves, to review the same film 100 times until your eyes burn. It's the ability to love the process when the results are nowhere in sight. That's the real discipline. Staying faithful to the grind, even when the world forgets you exist. I used to wake up before dawn, the city still asleep, the streets silent, the air cold enough to bite your skin. And while most people were lost in dreams, I was already chasing mine. That was my sanctuary, the quiet gym, the echo of the ball, the squeak of my shoes. That's where I felt alive. That's where I could hear my own thoughts clearly, where nothing existed except the next move, the next shot, the next step toward mastery. People think greatness comes from passion. It doesn't. Passion fades. It's discipline that remains when the fire burns out. Discipline is doing what's necessary long after the excitement is gone. It's pushing through pain, through fatigue, through doubt, and still executing at the highest level. Because the truth is, the body breaks before the mind does. And if your mind is strong enough, you can rebuild anything. You can't teach that kind of hunger. You either have it or you don't. You can't fake obsession. You can't fake the desire to improve every single day, to squeeze every ounce of potential out of yourself. Discipline is a choice you make in silence every single moment. It's not one big decision. It's 1,000 small ones. Rep counts. Every second matters. Every detail builds the foundation that no one sees, but everyone eventually feels. When I trained, it wasn't just about the physical. It was spiritual. Every repetition was a conversation with myself. How much are you willing to give? The pain became a language, and I learned to speak it fluently. I understood that discomfort was the entry fee for greatness. Most people quit when it hurts. I leaned into it because pain told me I was growing. Pain told me I was still alive in the pursuit. You can't expect the world to understand your discipline. They'll call you crazy, obsessed, too serious, but obsession is what it takes to rise above average. You have to be willing to look delusional to those who settled for less. Because while they sleep, you're evolving. While they talk, you're building. While they celebrate, you're preparing. That's the kind of silence discipline demands. No noise, no validation, just purpose. Every time I hit the gym early, I thought about my future self. The version of me that would thank me for showing up. The version that would stand tall under pressure because of all the unseen hours I put in. That's what discipline really is. It's doing something today that your future self can be proud of tomorrow. And the hardest part, nobody's watching. Nobody's clapping. But you still show up anyway. The world only sees the final performance. They see the 30-point games, the buzzer beaters, the highlight reels. What they don't see is the hours behind them, the missed shots in practice, the conditioning, the film study, the days when nothing worked and you still refused to quit. Discipline is doing it again and again and again until failure gets tired of you. It's not about motivation. Motivation is a spark. It burns fast. Discipline is the fire that never dies. It's the constant, the anchor. Motivation asks, do I feel like it? Discipline says it doesn't matter. That's the voice that separates you from the rest. The inner voice that refuses to let you stop. I remember days when my body was done, knees aching, shoulders sore, energy gone. But I still trained because I knew discipline isn't about you can do when you feel good. It's about what you do when you feel broken. That's where the real breakthroughs live. Beyond exhaustion, beyond comfort. That's where you find out who you are. Discipline doesn't need a crowd. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need validation. It needs one thing, purpose. Once you have that, you don't chase motivation anymore. You move with direction. You operate with intent. You wake up with a mission that doesn't fade when the lights go out. Every day I reminded myself the standard is the standard. Whether it's practice or playoffs, the effort doesn't change. Because if you start lowering your standard when nobody's watching, you're training yourself to be average. That's how discipline dies, quietly through compromise. You have to protect your standard like your life depends on it, because it does. People see trophies, I see habits. They see success, I see sacrifice. They see the result. I see the grind that nobody clapped for. And that's the beauty of discipline. It's the invisible thread that ties every victory together. You can't fake it. You can't buy it. You can only live it. Some nights after brutal workouts, I'd sit alone in the dark, drenched in sweat, heart pounding, mind racing, and smile. Because I knew nobody else was willing to go that far. I knew I was earning something that couldn't be measured. Discipline gave me peace. It gave me control. It gave me a sense of purpose that no trophy ever could. Discipline is love. Love for the craft, love for the grind, love for the challenge. It's loyalty to the dream you said you'd chase no matter what. It's refusing to betray your potential even when it's hard. It's the promise you make to yourself and never break. The world will always be noisy. Trends, opinions, distractions. But if you want to build something timeless, you need silence. You need focus. You need the discipline that nobody sees, but everyone eventually feels. Because when you're truly disciplined, your consistency becomes your legacy. And long after the noise fades, your work will still echo, loud, clear, undeniable. That's what I lived for. That's what I believed in. Not noise, not fame, just discipline. Quiet, patient, unbreakable. When the lights finally go out, and the sound of the crowd fades into memory, what remains is not the noise. It's the echo. The echo of every decision, every sacrifice, every ounce of effort that nobody saw. That's the truth about legacy. It isn't something you talk about while you're alive. It's something that whispers after you're gone. And those whispers, they come from the silence you respected, from the discipline you lived by, from the fire that burned inside when no one was watching. I always believed that legacy isn't written in words, it's carved in work. People remember actions. They remember consistency. They remember the feeling you left behind. You don't get remembered because you said you were great. You get remembered because you proved it over and over when nobody expected you to. That's what I wanted. Not fame, not approval, but impact. The kind of impact that echoes through generations. You can't chase legacy directly. It's not a destination you can walk toward. It's something that forms naturally when your purpose outlives your presence. When you give so much of yourself to something bigger than you, that energy doesn't die. It keeps moving. It keeps inspiring. That's the beauty of it. You become eternal, not by being seen, but by being felt. Every time I stepped onto the court, I wasn't thinking about being loved or remembered. I was thinking about excellence, about doing it right, about pushing myself past the line of pain, about leaving everything I had on that floor. Because I knew one day my body would slow down, the crowd would quiet, and the game would move on. But the standard I set, that would remain. The echo of how I worked, how I prepared, how I believed, that would stay alive. That's the truth people miss. Legacy isn't about the applause you get. It's about the echoes you leave behind. When people watch your highlights years later, they shouldn't just see skill. They should feel your mindset. They should feel the obsession, the hunger, the discipline. That's when you know you've done something real, when your work continues to speak even in your silence. I've always said the game is bigger than the game. What you do inside your arena, whether it's basketball, business, or life, it's just the stage. The real performance is who you become in the process. The discipline, the resilience, the focus, that's the real victory. Because one day, everything external disappears. The trophies collect dust, the cheers fade. The fame shifts to someone new. But what you become because of the grind, that's forever. There were nights I'd walk alone after a game. No noise, no cameras, just me and my thoughts. I think about all the years, all the sacrifices, all the moments people never saw. And there was a peace in that, knowing that every quiet hour was worth it. That's when I understood legacy isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It's steady. It's rooted. It's in the DNA of the work. Some people chase immortality through fame, but fame is just light. It shines bright and burns out fast. Legacy is different. Legacy is an echo. It travels farther, it lasts longer, and it lives in the hearts of those you inspired. You can't fake it, and you can't rush it. You earn it by living with integrity when no one's watching. When I think about what I want people to take from my story, it's not just the championships or the records. It's the mindset, that relentless commitment to growth, that refusal to quit, that belief that there's always another level. I want people to understand that greatness isn't handed to you. It's earned in silence, protected with discipline, and remembered through echoes. Every person has an echo waiting to be built. Every dream, every goal, every purpose, they all have the potential to outlive us. But it only happens when you give everything. When you stop talking about what you're going to do and start doing it like it's your only option. That's when your silence starts to vibrate. That's when the world begins to feel your frequency, even if they can't see your struggle. You don't have to be famous to leave a legacy. You just have to live with intention. You just have to put your soul into what you do every single day. Because people may forget what you said. They may even forget what you did, but they'll never forget how your dedication made them feel. That feeling, that's your echo. Years from now, when people talk about me, I don't want them to just say, he was one of the greatest. I want them to say, he showed us what discipline looks like. He showed us what obsession feels like. He showed us that silence can be louder than any cheer. That's the echo I wanted to leave. Because that echo, it teaches, it inspires, it challenges others to demand more from themselves. And that's the real point, to inspire someone else to build their own silence, to create their own echo, to look at your journey and say, if he could do it through pain, through setbacks, through doubt, then so can I. That's how legacy multiplies. It's not about you anymore. It's about everyone you awaken through your example. Every day you wake up, you have a choice to speak or to act. Choose action. Choose silence that builds power. Choose the kind of work that speaks long after your voice fades. Because in the end, nobody remembers the noise. They remember the echo. That's what I live for. That's what I played for. That's what I'll be remembered for. Silence wasn't emptiness. It was purpose. The work wasn't suffering. It was art. The echo wasn't noise. It was legacy. And when the final whistle blows for you, whatever your game is, remember this. You don't need to say anything. If you gave your all, the world will hear you anyway. Because the loudest thing you'll ever create is the echo of your actions.